This week we're going to send you off to Sean in Oklahoma, and before we dive into the hunt, we're going to dig into a little bit more about what makes this hunt so special. In 2016, when we first started all of this up, it was just me at the beginning, and I was out on the public piece just south of town where I was at in Oklahoma at the time. And so I had pulled into the parking lot, and any of us that hunt public land know when we show up, we see another truck kind of sink a little bit, hope that someone's not in our spot messing up our plans a little bit. So it was like the week before the season because we couldn't hang our stands much prior to that. So there's this white diesel truck in the parking lot. And so I go in and hang my stand and everything and don't run into anyone other than stands everywhere where I was thinking that there wouldn't be any stands. And sure enough, I get back out to the truck, and there's Sean and his son, and that's whenever I had met him in the parking lot at this public land the week before Oklahoma's bow opener. And we got to talking, and it was probably, I don't know, maybe an hour before dark whenever I first went in the parking lot, and we sat there and just BS'd about deer until well after dark. And I know my wife was texting me asking if I was coming back anytime soon. And sure enough, shortly after that, we both started helping each other with hanging stands and moving everything on this public piece, and started filming with us shortly after that. So that's the story of how I got to know Sean. And just a chance encounter on public land, just happened to be out there at the same time that he was. It goes to show you help some people out here and there whenever it's not expected, and you may make a lifelong friend. With that said, we'll send you off to him and see what he was able to do.
Welcome back to another episode of Whitetail 365. I'm Sean Biddle, and this is Timmy. Shot was just a little bag, but I'm shaking so good. Oh, baby. So Timmy showed up on the ranch this year. We knew it was him because of the crooked brow tines. I didn't have any bucks last year with any crooked brow tines or anything like that. He's a beautiful mainframe chocolate 8. Boy, he was a fighter. He fought all year long. I've got plenty of trail cam pictures of him fighting other bucks. I had the opportunity on November 3rd to harvest a deer we call Big Boy. Big Boy has a bigger mainframe 8 with a bunch of kickers on his bases. He's got one really long, like spear brow tine and one average size brow tine. And luck would have it, I shot him high in the back in no man's land on the morning of November 3rd. He survived. I had him a few hours later, eating in the food plot perfectly fine, just a flesh wound. The next afternoon on November 4th, I decided the cold front was coming through. I was going to push out to my blind, and I was going to try to harvest Big Boy again. There were 2 bucks on my hit list this year. It was Timmy and Big Boy. Well, the first buck to walk in that night was Timmy. And I was in the blind for maybe 20 minutes when Timmy appeared, and from my left, he just stepped out in front of me at about 20 yards. And I was blessed to be able to harvest Timmy. He was quartering away, put it right up in that boiler room, got me a double lung and a heart shot. He expired about 60 yards later. I could hear him crash. And it was the greatest feeling in the world to be able to harvest this animal. I was on an 11-year dry run here in southwest Oklahoma of not harvesting a buck. So to be able to harvest Timmy this season has been the absolute highlight of my season. The downer was missing Big Boy, but Big Boy is still alive and kicking today. Still a beautiful buck, and he gets to live another year and grow even longer. And hopefully next year he sprouts out even bigger. So just wait until shed season so I can find his sheds and at least have a piece of him from this season. But what you see on the table here are 2 predators we've harvested off of our ranch here in southwest Oklahoma. This is my son's first bobcat and his first coyote right here. Predator control to us down here is huge. Being in mesquite country and out here in the middle of nowhere, we have a ton of coyotes and bobcats. In 2017, we harvested 17 coyotes off our driveway alone. I think our totals were 24 in total from our trap line we were running. We were just running a half a dozen traps that season. This year we jumped it up to 12.5 traps. And we actually hit a slump this year. We harvested 7 coyotes, 1 gray fox, and no bobcats this year. A couple of skunks. But being out there and being able to take control of these predators and get them out so that our fawns are surviving through the early spring, going into summer, and our deer aren't getting hounded or getting pushed around from all these predators is great. So we were able to get our population down to where we only caught 7 this year, coyotes. So that's a huge jump. That's down 10 from the season before. And hopefully next year, as much as I love predator trapping, I would love the numbers to be even lower that we're catching next year, because that just means our population of predators right here are slimmer. So, but as far as old Timmy, this is Timmy, my beautiful 8 point with a couple kickers on his brow here. I love him. He hangs on my wall next to my TV. We spent a lot of time together. I hope y'all enjoy this episode of Whitetail 365.
As he had mentioned, he had that 11-year drought going into this season, and I know that he had been hunting some of the same public that I had before, which wasn't a terrible spot, but it wasn't a great spot by any means. And then before he had started hunting out there, he bounced around some other public, and the public down there is not bad. It's really crowded, and there's not many places where you can really get away from people, so it makes it a little bit more challenging to go after something that you really want to spend your tag on. I want to say it was around 2017 whenever he purchased this property and started managing it, and the first year it was pretty rough out there. It was a lot of smaller bucks, and there was a lot of mature bucks as well, but there just wasn't much growth on him. And I know he worked a lot and put a lot of time in clearing out food plots, like he has said, mentioning the predators out there. He put a pretty big dent in them in a couple years. I know the first year the deer population was okay, but it wasn't great. But there was no turkeys to be found anywhere. Whenever we were looking around, there wasn't much to be seen from them. And I know as of now, he had at least been seeing some. So all the work that he's doing is not only helping his deer herd, but all of the other animals are starting to thrive now that the predators are being brought down a little bit. But as far as the hunt goes, it goes to show he had mentioned that he had the day prior he had shot a buck and injured him, but it was just kind of fluffed the hair on the back of him there if you watch the video where he was mentioning it. And I know a lot of people may have given up on that spot at that point, but he went back out the next day and had a different buck come in and was able to seal the deal. And I can tell you there's definitely not anyone that's more deserving to get a buck like this on their own property after putting in all the work that he has in the last couple of years. So with that said, this is one of the last few episodes for this season. Keep an eye out pretty soon. We'll be putting out a couple more before we wrap up our deer hunting. So thank you for watching.
As always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube.